We're aiming for AAA games level of being a survival horror. And we wanted to show that we can build the atmosphere that we're talking about. There was a lot of thought that went into what we want to make, and I think people can see that.
What is this specific threat? Should we all be worried?
There were some experiments. There will be a lot of different mutations, and there will be many of them. The story of Holstin revolves around...
This is good. This is good. This is very good. Oh, this is so cool. I love this style so much. This is great. I like this. I really like this game.
Keep an eye on it, because this game is going to be a mover and a shaker. I'm calling it now. This studio is off to big things, I think.
Holstin is setting a goal to be the next big survival horror game. In this episode, I sat down with Rafał Sankowski, who is the CEO at the studio behind the game called Sonka. We discussed their proprietary rendering technology called 2XD and how it completely sets Holstin apart from any other game in the same style. The technology is so good that major brands have reached out with offers. However, the dev team is still holding on to it. I asked about the infection showcased in the game, what other enemy types we can expect, and how will all this tie into the puzzle mechanics. We also talk about the cultural significance of the game and how it plays into the characters and the environments and much more. With that said, let's uncover the story of Holstin. Holstin is on the top 200 list of most anticipated games in the world, which is absolutely fantastic. And first of all, a huge congratulations on that. I think that's a humongous achievement and an achievement well deserved by you and your team. And secondly, I just want to know what is going through your mind right now. How's the team feeling? What is the atmosphere in the studio?
A lot of things led to this moment. A lot of overtime hours, a lot of anticipation of how it's gonna be taken by the players. And also, this is the demo where we shown the combat mechanics, and we were really anticipating how will the general public take that, how well does it play. We really like the combat mechanics, but it's a little bit new, or just new. So yeah, we're feeling great. We're feeling blessed, I would say.
Great. I'm really happy to hear that. I would imagine there's also a little bit of pressure and a little bit of relief that comes with it, knowing that what you've worked on so hard is actually liked by many, many players. And again, just to tell you how amazing the game is, I had to stop scrolling when I was looking through Twitter, and there's a few games that have done that to me so far, and one of them being yours. And the first thing that really caught my eye is the new, for me at least, camera swap mechanic that I've never seen before. And this will be the perfect segue to my next question, which is exactly about this camera mechanic. Could you tell me about when was the aha moment that you and the team found that this is something that you want to pursue, something that you want to test? How did this mechanic come to be? How did you test it? And basically, the story of you guys deciding to incorporate this fantastic mechanic into the game.
Well, I always wanted to have a combat that isn't similar, I would say, to other isometric games. I love a couple isometric games that have shooting combat, but all of them are action-packed and are dexterity-based, I would say, and they don't really evoke the feeling of dread or something that I think survival horror needs. So we were looking for a long time for a combat in this isometric view that can, show skill of the player. So what was like the motto for like prototypes for the combat is I wanted to have, well, we wanted to have a combat that when a great player plays the game, you can see on the like a let's play or stream that he's really good at the game, and that was really hard in isometric view, just because most games, even great games, have this point and shoot mechanics that can't be as precise in the isometric view. So we've done around 15 totally different prototypes, and a couple of them were based on this like camera change. But so they're like the main ones were the FPS view, TPP view, which we have now, and like a symbolic representation of 3D scene, like what the player is facing. We would have in the prototype we had like billboards, like sprites instead of 3D models of enemies, and we had like a skybox background that was similar to how you fight in like an RPG games, like JRPGs. There are a couple games that do that. Resident Evil Gaiden would be the first thing that comes to mind, and also I guess first game that for sure the first survival horror that did that. But yeah, ultimately it landed on TPP, and we've been working on this and we didn't really have aha moment. Like we were working simultaneously on a couple prototypes, and we've just chosen what felt the best. But there wasn't a particular moment that told us this is the way to go. And to be honest, we were on the verge of we don't know if this is right thing to do.
Wow.
Up until basically a month or maybe 2 months before the demo. Like,
Really? Oh my
I mean,
goodness.
this is a really controversial thing. Obviously, it's viral. Obviously, people just click it because it's something new and it looks, I mean, I think great. But
Absolutely.
in terms of just straight up game mechanics, or just feeling of playing the game, I feel there's like cost to entry. You in many cases you cannot just take the game and play it, because like with VR, I guess you have to familiarize yourself with how the camera switches and how fast it moves and stuff. And we didn't have really the time to um, put that stuff into the settings. So in the final game we'll have like different camera like speed or the way it fades to accommodate for people that may have motion sickness or something like that. And like for the pro players, I would say the best way would be like immediate switch during one frame, just for to be better at the game, so you can aim immediately. But it takes some of the, or maybe even all of the aesthetics of that switch, because it's immediate.
Wow, that is actually really interesting that you mentioned the different types of options for different players. That's going to add another level of, let's say, interactivity and replayability. Because, as you said, for speedrunning, perhaps it makes much more sense to do everything much faster and quicker. And in terms of seeing the skills of the player as well, it's really interesting that you have thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, but this is a really important thing in terms of I actually the balancing between what looks good and what feels right was a major thing to do. Like, I think what we have right now looks a little bit better than than it plays. Like if the switch was faster, and that's how I play the game when I'm making the game. I have the switch a little bit faster. So if the switch is faster, if you're familiar with the game, you can play better, I would say, because you can aim faster, because we have to wait for the switch to be completed before we can give you aiming, especially on like a controller where you know have the right stick that turns the player in a particular direction, and then if you would be able to aim immediately after the switch, then this right stick that is, in particular direction would just throw your aim off. So yeah, this setting is actually a big thing, like in terms of something we have to do. It's not a novelty, to be honest. It's an important setting.
I would understand that it's a very difficult and tedious process, and it's really important to get that down correctly. Just adding to that question as well. From what I understand, Holstin is your studio's first venture into the horror genre, right?
Yeah.
And also, if I'm not mistaken, it is your first attempt on going a little bit mainstream with releasing the game on the PC and on consoles.
Well, so as Sonica, we've released over 20 games on Switch.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
We've ported a lot of games. We've made one original game, Astroverse, and other than that, we've ported and remade some games. So notable thing would be Duke Nukem 3D for Nintendo Switch. But yeah, this is our first big project.
right. So, what exactly inspired the departure from kind of your previous projects and your previous direction into this one? And what have you learned from your past experiences that can help you with this project? And just generally, what set of new challenges does this bring, and how are you guys overcoming everything?
We've always generally wanted to make games. Like the main reason to port games would be money. Basically, we were work for hire company. We have specialists in porting, great programmers, and generally a great team that was built around porting games. But porting, I don't feel it can be your love project. You're just porting the game. We really like working on most of the games we've been porting, but and I love my job, but it was a job basically. So there was always a notion that we will eventually make games um, when we feel like it's at the right moment, and it's the right moment now.
Oh, fantastic! And what set of new challenges does this bring to you? Does not porting the game, but creating everything from scratch and releasing them on the PC and consoles?
I mean, mainly the game design thing is something that's mostly new to the porting department. Uh, but I feel like actual work on porting isn't that much of a different than developing a new game. Like obviously there are many different things that we have to do, like assets that we've not been. So yeah, I mean, through the years, we've not only ported games but also remade them. So our last port is called Farm Tycoon, and it's a port based on Farm Manager series from PC, and this game is really based on Farm Manager, but we've been working on it for 2 years, and it's not a straight up port. It has totally different graphics. It's basically where we developed our 2XD rendering technology for that we are using in Holstin.
That's my next question.
Yeah, so the thing with how we made ports was we were constantly adding more and more to the games. Like our second port would be the way you remastered, and we were the one remastering the game. We've added voiceovers, we've added level design changes. The game was ported from Java to Unity, and yeah, I feel like the challenge is to actually make something for a long time. So we've been working on Holstin for a couple of years now, just because we've been working on this technology. We've been working on the first demo, second demo, and the game overall, and the whole design process. So and we still have a year and maybe a little bit more to go. considering all the console release and stuff, and maybe post-launch support and stuff. So being focused on just one project for a couple years is something new for most of the team, especially for me, as I've been involved in every of 20 plus projects we've been working on for the past 6 years. So yeah, this is kind of a new experience to be able to focus on just one thing instead of managing a couple different projects all at one time.
Absolutely, and I must say that I'm excited for you that you finally have the chance to create that vision of yours and create that dream game that you would wanted to release for a long time. And obviously, wishing you absolutely nothing but the very best. And speaking of this 2XD rendering technology, you mentioned it and you showcased it on your Twitter many, many times. Obviously, you can see it full scale in the demo, and it looks fantastic. It really, really does look fantastic. Could you say what exactly is it? Is it your proprietary technology that you developed yourself? And what are, if any, the future plans for this proprietary lighting technology?
Well, it's not really a lighting technology.
Rendering, sorry.
Yeah. So the 2XD rendering tech is our own set of tools and pipelines and add-ons to Unity engine, and not only Unity, that were mainly developed um, by our vice CEO. He's a tech artist behind Holstin, and that's, I could say Holstin is my child game, like love project, and I would say like 2XD rendering is his child and love project. And we want to focus on it in terms of maybe not focus, but we want to develop it throughout the years. I feel it's something that um, separates us from people that don't have this technology.
Right. Absolutely.
So yeah, we want to work on it, we want to develop it, and we want to make games with it. And it's not only for like pixel art games. So Farm Tycoon is a game that is 2D basically, but looks like 3D. And this game is 3D but looks like 2D. It's just a set of tools that help us with achieving the aesthetics that we aim for, basically.
Understood. Yeah. I was asking this perhaps because maybe you see a future in this technology where you could sell it, or maybe give it to other developers or something like
Yeah,
that. Is
so
that a
we've
possibility?
actually had some offers
Wow,
from
really
like
interesting.
major companies. Uh, we are not interested in this right now, as well. The look of Holston is one of the major selling points. For now, if you see a screenshot from Holstin and you know about Holstin, you kind of know that the screenshot is from Holstin. And that is something that we aimed for, to have, like, I would say, aesthetical brand. And if we were to like lend or sell this technology, we could, lose that. Um, but yeah, we'll see what goes along the
Okay, so
time.
you're holding on to it right now. That's noble. It's very noble of you. Very, very interesting.
I wouldn't say it's noble as a business. Like for now, we want to be the ones that use that, right? But
Well, some people could sell it quite fast. There are people like that would be able to be like, you know what, you guys have it as long as we get the money
yeah, I
straight
mean,
away.
I'm just saying that not selling, I feel, is a better business decision. Uh,
Understood. Absolutely, and I agree with you. And I agree with you totally. Right now, that definitely separates you from the general public, let's say. So there is definitely a lot going for Halston. There's a beautiful art style that is very unique. There is the proprietary lighting that we just talked about, or rendering technology, sorry, that we've just talked about. The camera swap mechanic, that is something new and amazing. And the camera rotation in game that gives you access to, I believe, 8 angles when you're playing the game.
yeah.
Now, all of this adds to the complexity of the game itself. How do you manage the balance between these features to balance them in a way that is not frustrating or overwhelming for the player?
So the demos we've been showing now are focused on those features. So the first demo was, you know, a showcase of 2XD rendering, basically. We wanted to show that it isn't just smoke and mirrors in our GIFs that go viral on Twitter, that it works, basically. And we wanted to show that like we can build the atmosphere that we're talking about. And the second one, yeah, it's a combat showcase, so there's a lot of combat. There's a lot of switching between, the different cameras and camera angles and perspectives. But I just feel that in the final game, like those aren't the main things of Holstin, to be honest. Like
Okay, interesting.
those are just things that are different. I feel
Okay.
like our game, like Holstin, can defend itself as a good survival horror, and that's what we are aiming for. We're aiming as a your survival horror experience. We're aiming for AAA games level of being a survival horror. Obviously, not in every aspect. We are not making a AAA game, obviously, but we just want to. But yeah, I feel like the mechanics you've been talking about, you mentioned, um, those aren't the things that define Holstin. Those are just things that define, I would say, graphics of Holstin. And through the like a couple teens hours, you will be so familiar with like camera switching or camera rotation that it wouldn't be a novelty. It's just how you operate the camera.
Speaking of the fact that you are aiming to, not set the par, but be at par with AAA game titles like, Resident Evil and such when it comes to survival horror and that specific aspect. What I want to ask you is, in this crowded marketplace of horror games today, what do you believe will or does now set Holston apart from everything else and a must play for the fans of the genre?
So I don't really feel the survival horror genre is crowded. There's a lot of horrors, obviously, on Steam, but I would say survival horror as a genre is a totally different genre. And it has a different. I didn't really play that much of horror games, um, but I play a lot of survival horrors, and there's not a lot of good survival horrors out there. Um, but yeah, I think the the thing that differentiates us from the general horror is obviously the 2XD rendering and what we've been talking about. But as the setting, I
Yeah, this was.
feel
I want to dive into that.
great. I mean, I think this is what can bring other players here, like not only people that want to play survival horror or like see that 2XD rendering in motion. I feel there's a lot of people that go to us for the setting, for the narration, basically.
All right. So speaking about this setting, that's exactly what I wanted to speak about next. Obviously, the game's story and setting is inspired by, or fully uh, derived from the Polish culture, and that already sets you a little bit apart from everyone else. And could you tell us a bit more about the cultural influences that shape the game's world, and what other potential environments can we expect to see? Because I've seen a picture of Tomasz being outside shooting the zombie. So what can we expect?
So again, the being outside would be a totally different topic because outside is like a big part of Holston.
Fantastic!
Like
Wow,
like
nice.
like Jeziorno to Kolonia town is where the most of the game will happen, or at least a half, depending on how much you want to do there. Um, but in terms of what parts of Polish culture inspired Holstin, I would say like all of that. And I don't think there are any like specifics that I can specifically point to, because the story, the characters, the items, the place, the cars, like everything is from Poland, from that particular period. The story of Holstein revolves around so firstly is the early 90s. So Poland, I mean, it's still considered post-communist country, but back then it was early post-communism country. So a lot of it is influenced by that, and also Poland, especially in that period, was a very religious country. So the story is also, I would say, about how the religion influences a small town people in Poland, because I feel like all those things I've mentioned are different throughout the world. Like I know how like pastors in media influence like small towns in USA, just because I watched like many videos or I don't know series about small town pastors. But this is totally different than we have in Poland, and I feel like for a lot of people, the stereotypes that we use, the cultural influence that we have from Poland, for a lot of people can be seen as like otherworldly, like not familiar, and I think it's great that we can have this kind of a surreal, similar world, but without like coming up with a new world. We just want to show you, and by you I mean the rest of the world, how we see things as people from Poland, I would say.
Oh, that is really fantastic. And what's interesting in what you're saying is that it's something unknown to many people, and to make it known now would make the whole place feel surreal. And as you said, making something real to feel surreal is a very unique thing, and I agree with that. And really it feels like really great atmosphere in the game, really kind of cozy, and you've managed to really nail, at least from the demo, I believe like the whole essence and the character of the Polish culture. But we shall see and dive into it a bit more, obviously, when the game fully comes out. I would like to speak now a little bit about the virus itself, or at least if I may call it a virus. So the main threat in the game right now is called Plasmodium, and it was your aim to make it a believable survival horror mechanic and setting. Um, what exactly inspired you to create this specific threat? And what is this specific threat? What type of a virus is it? And if it's something believable, should we all be worried? Is it something from like the Last of Us story, where this virus could potentially or theoretically be dangerous for humans?
Yeah, I mean, discovering what was the Plasmodium and where it comes from is most, or a big part, I would say, rather, um, of Holston's story. So I really cannot answer like any of things you've asked. Um, um, the player, if he will not scroll Twitter or something, will not know too much about the Plasmodium throughout most of the game, I would say. And um, seeing how it affects the people, the town, the architecture, and generally everything in the game, and how it changes throughout the game. That's a big part of Holston identity that we haven't shown yet, to be honest.
But did you take the inspiration for this virus from something from the real world, or is it more imaginary?
Yeah, I mean, there were some experiments.
Aha.
Yeah, I mean, This is
Interesting.
based on like sciencey technobabble
Okay.
stuff from like the late 80s. It's not a real science. I don't think. I mean, it was a real science. People done experiments that failed, but it wouldn't be considered any possibility that those, Plasmodium ooze, whatever can grow and mutate you into like a zombie thing.
Okay,
But
so we can
yeah,
all be calm. But what's interesting, at least to know, is that it's not something completely made up, and it's something that has somewhat of a grounding in, experiments, be it in the late 80s and be it completely of, let's say, unsuccessful, thankfully. Nonetheless, this is an interesting insight to know. What I'm also interested to know is this plasmodium, as you said, affects not only human beings but also the architecture, and it goes into walls and floors and carpets and everything really that it touches. And in the first demo, we saw how you use this to your advantage to create puzzle mechanics where these sprouts that are coming up from the floor are blocking your way. Now, what I'm interested to know is that are there any other ways that you're using the plasmodium in the puzzle mechanics of the game?
yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a big part of Holstin. So I once answered the same question in like a Polish interview, so, but I don't think it was public in like English infosphere.
Okay, I've seen a
So
Polish I couldn't understand,
yeah, I mean
unfortunately.
it's
Yeah,
in Polish.
yeah.
But so Holston will have kind of a Zelda slash Metroidvania progress where you um, walk through the Jeziorna Colonia town, which is like a semi-open world, but you don't have access to a couple parts of it. And what you're trying to do in this semi-open town is to find a dungeon that is just a big location, like Janowski House. And every every dungeon has its own type of ooze. So all those oozes have different mechanics. So this one ooze that doesn't really like the electrical light is just one of 5 oozes basically.
Wow. Okay.
And every ooze will have its own mechanics and its own, you know, puzzles that come with it. In the final game, it is not represented at all in the second demo, but in the final, I guess that is some. I feel like this is something you will ask me, but let's go there. So in the final game, we will not have a lot of enemies. What you've seen the second demo is basically like your default enemy, the enemy that is mutated by the ooze. But the main thing is that those mutations will be there will be a lot of different mutations, and there will be many of them. And like enemies can like mutate together. They can connect. They can create different enemies, but from people, and they
Oh,
can they
interesting.
can like connect with other objects on the scene and stuff. That a lot of great things. I really want to show you in like a half a year or
Yeah,
so. But
for sure.
those enemies will be also mutated by different oozes. So, for example, there will be enemies that are mutated by the light scary use, like
Yeah,
the ooze that you can play with in the first demo. So
yeah.
those enemies will not like electrical light. And there will be different enemies that have part of this different oozes on them that
Oh,
will be,
so cool.
interacting with it.
So I just wanted to showcase a screenshot that I found on Twitter. Obviously, for the viewers, I'm going to put the picture in full resolution. But is this something to go by when you're talking about other characters? I don't know if you can. Will you be able to see this?
I do remember that. Yeah, those were just um like mock-ups for enemies. Like our pixel artist just sat down and just drew a lot of different enemies. I wouldn't really go by that image.
So that's very exciting. so what you're saying is that we're going to have multiple types of oozes, multiple types of enemies infected with that ooze. Different buildings will have different ooze. These different viruses will create different types of puzzles, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow, this is just so fascinating. And you're really, I mean, in general, the demo itself is very, very long, both of them, the first one and the second one. So it feels like that's kind of all you get. But when you're telling me that this is merely a fraction of what you're going to get, it makes me and everybody probably much more excited for playing the game. And also, what I really enjoy about the demo, just wanted to mention to you, is that you mentioned in the demo that this specific part, what you're playing right now, will not be exactly as it is going to be in the real game. So
Yeah.
technically, in the demo, it's just a little playground, as you said, for the player. So that's a really great thinking on your side. Could we dive into the amazing voice actors of the game?
Sure.
So right
Let's.
now, it's fully voiced by the fantastic Polish actors, and they're doing an amazing job. My first question would be: how did you approach the casting process and the directing process for these actors? And what exactly was the whole kind of input from your side to make them give you such a chilling performance that was required for the game?
So we've been partnered with a voice over studio called Studio PRL for a couple of years now, and we've been working with them. So the first project we've been working together on is the way remastered, and then we've been working on some trailers and some other games too. And they were the first choice for us to work with them. They work on a lot of, like, I feel like most of big Polish games were voiced over by them, and they do most of like Disney dubbing in Poland. They are a great studio. So they gave us a like voiceover director. They gave us we're just partnered with them, and they help us immensely with like the casting and everything. So the process of like choosing the actors was, they gave us like 10 choices for every character, and we went through them and chose the specific actor that we wanted to go with. And then the recording of the voiceover is basically a couple people from their studio, the director of the game, the voiceover director of the game, and me, and we just go with, you know,
With the script and everything.
yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So, do you plan? I mean, obviously, you said that there's going to be an English voiceover. I personally am enjoying the Polish one with the English subtitles. I think that adds like a groundness to the game that is really perfectly fits within the game. But for the English voiceover, do you plan to hire native English speaking actors for the roles, or do you plan to have the current Polish actors speak in English in their accents?
No, we do plan to hire native speaking English people. It's just, if you want the preferred experience that we want to like craft for you, you would play the Polish voiceover, to be honest. And it's not really a Polish voiceover as it's original. In terms of, there will be some characters that play that talk in German or Russian, and they will be voiced in German and Russian by people that natively speak in those languages. So if you're choosing to not play an original, then we'll give you great English voiceovers, but everyone will be speaking English, and that's this is that was an important issue for me, because we did consider like making Polish people with really Polish accents and saying things like this, just to emphasize that this is a Polish game or stuff, but it's not really authentic as just Polish voiceover. And then for people that really want to use English voiceover, or like need to use them. For example, people with some disorders with reading or hearing, even like people that need to hear the English words, then Polish accents and generally not the best performance we can provide isn't really an option, isn't really a way to go here.
Understood. Understood. I fully understand now that it's important to think of, as you said, the people that really need that full English voiceover. But yeah, I'll be playing it definitely in the original voiceover for sure. For me, it's really probably the best way to play the game, as you have said. So talking about the characters, delving into the worlds of each character and creating them is definitely a unique challenge. And from what we have played, there's not a lot of information about the characters that was given, but there's definitely a lot more to give from you that we're going to find out through the game's lore, through the conversations, and whatnot. What is your methodology of creating the characters and their stories? Do you derive from real life inspirations, or is it just your writers and your own imagination and creation?
We have a great team of two writers that work on the project, and I'm not really sure, what was their process. Like I am really and a lot. I have a lot of involvement in the Holstin narration and stuff, but and I feedback a lot, and I give my ideas, and I write something too. But I wouldn't say I can describe the whole process that goes that our narrative designers go through for writing characters. They aren't based in reality though. Those are just fictional characters.
The reason why I'm asking is that some of the locations in the game are based on real life. You've posted that on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean just the one, just the Janowski house, and that
Just the
was
house, okay.
yeah, and it's not really it wasn't really a narrative based decision. So this house, the Janowski house, is based on Bartek, so the vice CEO, the tech art, the 2X rendering guy. This is his house. This is his family house. Obviously, it's much bigger. I mean, in terms of like room sizes in the game than in real life, but this is his house, and the main reason for that is, well, we didn't really have to do research and level design to be able to provide a list of assets for our 3D modelers and pixel artists and general people. So we as designers were focused on bringing the like Janowski house narration, whatever the house is in terms of like level room design. And we were focused on gameplay. We were focused on graphics, technology. We were focused on input and generally making the game. We don't have a big team. We have 13 people, and a lot of design decisions are my decisions. So if I had to go through all that stuff, I didn't really have the time to come up with a different house to search for references to like level design that. And I mean that wasn't like bad thing to do. It was funny for us to just let's use this house. We have photos, we have plans, original plans. So we've just said, yeah, I mean that saves us time and it's authentic. It just fits the theme.
Makes
So
perfect sense. But the same cannot be said about the characters, right? The only inspiration was for the main character from the cult Polish TV series, right? Psy?
yeah, it's psy.
Psy, sorry.
So psy is dogs in English, and actually like pigs, because psy is like the animal term for policeman.
Got it. Got it.
So So yeah, this is a cult classic, an action movie. Yeah, the main character. I mean, I
Not
wouldn't.
fully. It doesn't fully look, or you know.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's the character is based on that, and I don't. I mean, in terms of just look, yeah, I mean, it has the same jacket, and it has the same jacket as Leon from Resident Evil 4, which a lot of people point to as. But in terms of like the actual character, I wouldn't say it's based, personality and stuff on the character from Psy. There's a great Polish series that's fairly recent that I really recommend. It's not only good as like Polish series. I just think it's a great series, but it's not Psy. I mean, Psy is fine too. But the recent one is called Kruk. I think it's HBO, and it's a really great Polish, investigative, a little bit of fantasy thriller. I really like that, and if you're at all into like Polish things, maybe because of Holstin, there's a lot of like Polish lore in this series. I really like that.
I'll check
And
it out. I'll check it out, and the
I
viewers
really
also, if you guys
recommend.
listening.
Really
I'm
recommend.
definitely gonna check it out for sure. It's what's definitely lacking for me right now is good series. I always start something and finish it really fast, so I'll check this one out for sure.
So yeah, we've based. So I've been watching Kruk just when we were designing Tomasz, and even subconsciously, I've based some decisions on the protagonist of Kruk because I really like Kruk. And yeah, if we were to speak about where is Tomasz based, I would say the jacket is based on Psy movie, but the character is really loosely, but still kind of based on the Kruk from the series Kruk.
Interesting. All right, that's good to know. Could you speak about, if you can, obviously, a potential co-op mode or multiplayer mode? Is that something that your team are thinking about doing?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak about it because we are not doing that. We've been thinking at the early stages about doing that, but it's not this game, to be honest. Like, it needs a lot of resources to be able to make a great experience for a couple players or multiplayer mode, and I feel like we can spend those resources better for making a great survival horror.
Understood. All right. Well, that's settled then. What I'm also interested in, you posted a few pictures of early on, let's say, maybe concepts of Holstin where it was actually 2D. It was still pixel art, but it was 2D, and it looked, pretty good nonetheless. Could you say why exactly did you switch from 2D to 3D? What was the reasoning behind it? How did that all happen?
Um, so the answer is twofold. So first thing is that the view wasn't really 2D. It was supposed to be from the side, but it still was supposed to be a 3D game, just for 2XD rendering to do its magic with lights and shadows and stuff.
So XD rendering was already from the get-go, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
as I've said, this technology was developed during the Farm Tycoon game development, and we knew that the next game has to be based on this technology. That's why we've been porting Farm Tycoon for so long, because we could justify it through making our own technology. So yeah, those screenshots, those aren't really even screenshots. Those are just some art, some mock-ups and stuff. Yeah, I'm not really sure what really
What really happened there?
yeah, like we've tested a lot of ideas. There was like on those screenshots, the game wasn't set in Poland. It wasn't called Holstin. It was, the pitch was like Resident Evil, but in platform, but a platformer, in pixel art. It's a different game. It's just we've been working on a concept for what we want to do for a year or so. So that's not the only thing that was before Holstin. Like those were just things that were pretty to share, I guess.
Yeah, it was definitely a cool thing to see, kind of behind the scenes of how everything was and how everything is now. So that's why I was interested myself to see what kind of led to that. What's it called, to that change? A question I ask all the devs with whom I speak is a question about marketing, because definitely marketing is a very important part of selling your indie game. And obviously, indie games have limited resources and limited budgets, so concentrating on marketing is rather important, because marketing can, if you really want it, take in all that budget and leave you with nothing. Could you share a few details or a few advice from your end? How did you approach marketing? What would you advise other indie devs to do?
So first thing is that marketing can you can spend a lot of budget on marketing, but I think what you mean is advertising, and advertising gives us one brand of marketing. And what we've been talking previously, so like the coming up with what Holstin should be is traditionally a marketing. So coming up with your product, targeting your product, and generally making a strategy of how you want to sell it, how to whom you want to sell it. This is marketing. So you it's a hard question to answer, because if by marketing is how do I think Holstin went viral on some tweets, and I don't know. It's just a portion of luck and technology and stuff, but there was a lot of thought that went into what we want to make, and I think people can see that this is a love project, that it's just cohesive in a lot of ways, and people want to play it, so they want to see, they want to share it, and also we are working kind of in what I've been kind of jokingly naming a marketing-based development. So there's or marketing-based game design. So there was this. There are, like, on academics level, there are a couple of philosophies in game design, and they like change throughout. The so here I have The Art of Game Design, and it's one of the best books on game design.
Right.
And I don't really remember. I think I read it like 7 years ago, but so I don't really remember the term. But what was fashionable back then was like player-centric game design. So making a lot of playtests and like seeing how changing game after getting feedback from the players after playtests. And this is great. Like, you have to do that as a game developer, I feel. But what you are currently working on is, a production issue, not really a game design issue. And we've been working on things that I feel, or we feel, are marketable. So, the cutscene with Przemysław Wodnik, that he punches you and shows the stamina.
Yeah.
That was a marketable thing. So
Yeah, absolutely.
we focused our efforts on that, like, 1 minute video, because we knew that, or thought that this will be, marketable, and that's the same with the demos. We, announced 3 demos. We've released 2 so far, and we are working. So we wanted the 3 demos to get feedback, to make rounds with stuff and all of that. things, but also to have marketing bits to market the game on the first, the second, the third demo. And yeah, this is kind of marketing based game production. Like, okay, what we have to focus on to be able to market the game from the start and not when it's finished. A lot of games can only be like in a lot of cases you can make a trailer of a game only really close to the final release, because only then you have the final assets. And it's valid in a lot of cases, but I don't know if it's valid in, I would say, high budget indie projects. As for us, for Holstin, I feel it has a budget of, I can say the amount, but
No, it's a high. Let's say high. It's not like one person working on a thing. You have a whole team.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the highest up there in terms of indie game development.
Got it. Wow, that's really interesting to know as well. And what's also very pleasing from your end is the very careful and methodic attention to detail what you do in your demos, like these little bits and pieces of fun moments that are, as you said, marketable but also pleasing for the player. And you can see, like, you feel very satisfied when you play a game like that. So from your end, that is very, very good. And again, thank you for all the insights for that in terms of marketing and advertising. I'm sure some people would find that very informative. My next question would be a bit of a open question that I also ask not only game developers but kind of with everyone that I speak to. What is a video game for you? If you were going to define a video game, what does it mean to you? What is it for you? What's that one or two sentences if you could describe a video game?
Going back to the academics and books about game design and stuff, I don't really remember who said that. I want to say Ernest Adams, but I can be totally wrong on that. But the game, there's this definition of video game that is a series of meaningful choices, and that always resonated with me. Like, for the longest time, we've been using the game theory from like mathematics division, that the game has to have a conflict, and then like a winner or like losing state, and the series of meaning. I will just Google that to correct myself. Who said that?
Yeah, sure.
Series of meaning. It's Sid Meier's. So
Sid Meier, of course, yeah. Civilization and everything. Like
yeah. So that's a great definition of what a video game is. And in terms of what it is for me specifically, I always wanted to make games since I was like 7 years old. When I played games with my family, and one of my earliest memories is playing like Worms on PSX with my whole family. And I knew that, maybe I didn't knew, but I thought that people that make games are like rock stars, that they provide like entertainment to millions of people. And I wanted to be a rock star in a way, like in that way. I wanted to make games for that. So like video games for me are the ultimate entertainment and things that can connect and destroy families. And yeah, I love video
That's
games.
Good. Right. Yeah, I really, really like your answer. I can fully agree with you. I also remember playing Worms as well. I had my time with it, and that was very, inspirational from your end about the video games. And what's good is that you managed to continue with your dream and actually do it as a job, which is absolutely great. And you're doing
Yeah,
a
I'm
fantastic
grateful
job with.
for that, really.
And you're doing a fantastic job. Just to finish off our interview here, is there any last words, last remarks that you would like to say to any of the fans of Holstin or anybody listening to this video?
Yeah, thank you, thank you very much. But what I wanted to like really say is that I like we don't want to let you down. We work really hard to to bring Holstin as the next, big survival horror, whatever that means. And we are really fans of survival horror genre, and we want this to be our love letter to the community. And I want to play this game too.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a really good point. Wow, thank you for that. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that all the fans and everybody who supports you feel the same way, that you don't want to disappoint them. All of us are waiting in anticipation for Holston. Take as much time as you need. Don't rush it. We're all waiting, and we're going to definitely play it and enjoy it. Obviously, wishing you a lot of luck and a lot of courage in this journey. And we are here to support you all the time. Thank you so much, Rafał, for this fantastic conversation, so insightful conversation. It was a pleasure to speak with you, and thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much for having me. It was great.